You're welcome.
Fine. Welcome, welcome to Bayyinah and Friends. Welcome to all of our friends. Oh, I see Melissa is here. Makito, yes, Imani. All right. Happy to see all of you. Thank you for being with us. And as we always do, we'll start by calling on all the forces in the cosmos, those forces that are part of us and with whom we have created this entire cosmos, all the universes combined, is our creation. We must take charge of this ability, of our power. We must stop believing that we have no power. So let us assume our power, our ability to make our world, to make our planet what we want it to be. So we call on all the forces, all the part of that force within each one of you, as we welcome each one into this exchange today with in Bayyinah and Friends. And as you know, we like to start by reading this poem, and we will do it again. Freedom, that's our goal. Freedom. And until we each are clear on what is freedom and how we can bring it about and maintain it in our lives daily, we will continue to be enslaved. So listen carefully to what our ancestor, Amunhotep, Ethiopian philosopher, what he told us about freedom nearly 5,000 years ago. Freedom, our first mistake was that we thought of freedom as a place rather than as a continuation of a struggle. Tyranny never sleeps. That's a paragraph. Tyranny never sleeps. Our second mistake was that we thought of freedom as a goal rather than a launching pad from which to reach our goals. Without purpose, freedom hardly matters. Our third mistake was that we thought freedom made us free. However, is license, not freedom at all. Freedom is being shackled to identity, purpose, and direction, and being in constant pursuit. If you have no goals, you're not a free person. If you have no purpose, you are not a free person. So take the time and think about it. And as we welcome our brother Makhandal, Minister Makhandal, and invite him now to greet the audience.
In the name of God, the beneficent, the most merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but He, and I bear witness that He has been engaged in our affairs from the very inception of our existence, especially through our history, which is His history in Haiti. My name is Joseph Makhandal Champagne Jr., but I prefer to be referenced or called by Yusef Makhandal. Why? It is because I know something about names. I know something about the value of responding to a name. I know something about the history of the French in Haiti, in the whole slavery system, which is also called slaveocracy, in which they not only sought to take over our minds, take over our soul, but also they wanted to brain us with their names. Therefore, you got French names affixed on Black people in Haiti. Black people in Haiti should never have a French last name, especially after what our Emperor Jean-Jacques Dessalines did in declaring our independence in 1804. So it is a clarion call to all to see and find out ways that they can study themselves so that they can learn what will be a name that will best reflect who they are, their nature, and then you call or use a name that corresponds with their goal. As our dear sister indicated, the goal equals freedom. If you have no goal, you have no freedom. If you don't have no purpose, you have no freedom. So your name should be your goal. Your name should be your purpose. It should embody your goal and your purpose. And so that's the reason why I like to be referenced by Machandal. Not to say that I am equal to him in no ways, but he's my standard, he's my goal, and he's my purpose. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's begin by down memory lane. You were what, 8, 9, 10 maybe in IT? What is your nicest memory from as a young boy in IT?
Wow. My nicest memory is the ability for me to go in my front yard to pick up mangoes in my front yard, and to even go climb that tree and just rest there for a little while, because we had a stool where we could go up on that tree, and there was the way the tree was uh, framed. It almost was like a couch, but without the cushion. But the fresh breeze and the sun and the shadow that that tree provided felt so much like a couch because it was so comfortable. So I would say that was one of my most cherished memories, because I'm so into health. I like fruits and vegetables. I guess it can be shown on my face. But I enjoy fruits, and so whenever I'm going to the stores buying fruits here in America, I always reflect on how good I had it back home, when I could just go in my front yard and pick up mangoes and eat it without having to stand in line and pull money out of my pocket and pay for that mango. So someone says that planting your own food is like printing your own money. So I was so rich in Haiti, I didn't even know that.
Ma, you're on mute.
Hello?
Yes, we're here.
Hello.
Yeah. Yes. Mother, do you want me to continue?
Yes, yes. Tell us your nicest memory as a
Yes.
young.
Yes, as I mentioned, the ability to go and pick up fruits from my fruit trees. Not only we had fruit trees in the front yard, we also had it in our backyard as well. We have piquenep, maï, a number of other edibles right there. But back then, we didn't know how rich we were. And also, we didn't know how poor we were either. We just were living the life, and we were enjoying our freedom, enjoying our ability to be ourselves without having to wear a mask to to show people that you are friendly with them, when in fact you have a sense of a sense of discontent with their system of things, and we will get that, deeper into that later on. But the
Okay.
point is, being in Haiti, being able to get access to the fruits right in my front yard, in my backyard, was the best thing that I could say was my cherished memory.
Excellent. And that's what I enjoy every morning.
You're in heaven.
That's right. When
Yes.
I get up in the morning and, depending on the season, like right now, this is the first year. Generally, my mangoes stop at the end of May. And
Mm.
this year, I don't know how come, but all of June I have mangoes, and until now, I still get a couple of mangoes here and there. So it's a particularly rich year for us, and as for us. But we're into July, and you mentioned Kenep. Geneps,
Yes.
I think is how they say it in English. And Geneps is the best anti-malaria medicine, by the way.
Oh.
So don't just, if you find them, if you're buying them, don't just eat the Geneps, but take at least 7 to 12 from the bunch and mash the seed, crush it, and swallow what you get, and then the rest you could just spit it out, but at least 7, and you will have your vaccination, anti-malaria vaccination for the year.
Wow.
If you don't like it, you don't have to have any more Kenep, but at least one time when you see it, Kenep, get it and protect yourself.
Yep.
So the first, so your oldest memory is about eating food. That's a very good memory. Eating is a great thing to remember.
Yeah.
Especially a country that they want to make everybody believe that there is nothing. All right. So let's go on. You've grown, and at some point you leave Haiti and you come to the United States. You
Yes.
around what time? What age?
I came in the United States indefinitely in 1991 when I was 19 years old. But every summer I would come from 1987 to 1991. I would come every summer to visit my mom, because I did not know my mother until 1987 when I came to the United States.
Okay.
And
Let me stop you here. A very good, they like to say, black fathers don't take care of their children, da da da. He was living with his father, okay?
I was living with my grandfather,
Grandparents. Mhm.
whom I call father, and you're still right, my
Okay.
father.
Yes. Very good. Please
Yes.
continue. So you come to the States.
Yes, I came to the States in 1991 indefinitely, and it was within 6 months or so, my father introduced me to hard work. I work in a factory called American Bay Factory. It's a fur coat factory. Um, and my father used to be a foreman there. And so we would go from New York to New Jersey to that particular factory. And it was during my travels with a number of people in that van, and the driver, just by sheer coincidence or fate, he was playing a speech, and I heard the voice of God, really, coming through a man that I later on find out that was the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in which this man was making reference to Dr. King, but in such a very powerful way that I had to ask the driver, who is talking about Dr. King, because I was so enamored with Dr. King. I used to listen to a lot of his speeches to the point where I memorized a few of them, and I didn't know that I memorized it until, when you're taking a shower and you're singing a song and you don't even know when you memorize that song. And those speeches was like that for me, because I listened to so many of them that I was just reciting Dr. King's speeches. while taking a shower. So so I heard Minister Farrakhan speaking about Dr. King, and that was it for me.
Okay, when you mentioned Dr. King, do you remember the speech in which he says, "Oh, America, America, one day, a little country that you take for nothing."
Yes, Haiti.
All right. Well,
But I also like that part. If you, since you bring me down the memory lane, don't you know? He warned America. He said to America that you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power and place it in the hands of a nation that don't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God. Yeah.
All right. So now we're growing up.
Yes.
We're going to school. And
Yes.
what choices, what studies, what is of interest?
Growing up, so when I came in 1991, I went to high school. And while in high school, it was very interesting years, because I spent 2 years in high school from Haiti. Mind you, Haiti, they always say that is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Here I am in the greatest country, not only in the Western Hemisphere, but also in the world. And
So they claim. So they claim.
So they claim. I was gonna say that, so-called. And so that was a testimony to me that there's a lot of propaganda going on, because here I am coming from supposedly this poor country, coming into this so supposedly great country, and my performance in school, even though I was not the best students in my school in Haiti, going to George Marc, Sunday Études Secondaires, Saint Louis Gonzague, yet coming to America, I became the valedictorian of my high school with my broken English.
Oh boy. Go ahead. That's a clap.
Yeah. My math level was so high that I reached calculus in high school, and there was no actual class for me. And so the director of the math department was the one teaching me in AP math. I was the only student in her class until a few weeks later. There was a sister who joined me. So it became two of us, you know, taking calculus together. So
All right.
that's it. Yeah, that says a lot about our education back then. You know, understanding that I took almost 6 years, absolutely 5 years of Latin in Haiti. So even though I know now they have eliminated that in our curriculum in Haiti. So but from my generation, the education that we received was, from my standpoint, far more superior to the one in the United States, particularly where I attended schooling.
All right, let's go on to college.
Yes. In college, I went to Columbia University, undergrad, and I received a full scholarship, academic scholarship, not, you know, football scholarship. There's a distinction. Nothing wrong with people, you know, getting that, but they always want to portray our people as being the only way you can actually get scholarship is by going through athletics. But some of us, you know, can also get it through academics as well. And
That's
I was
right.
one of them. And
Good.
so, praise God. So my major was, I was pre-med in psychology with a penchant on neuroscience and behavior. And it was while at Columbia University that I started to investigate more about the medical field and I wanted to study natural medicine. You know, I wanted to delve more into the herbs and their potency and pretty much being a Machandal. You understand? So so I they say that they do not offer that kind of area in the medical field, and so I became very despondent, and I learned that the medical field, the way that they were promoting it and practicing it, was more so focused on the art of dealing with drugs, of pushing certain medications that the doctor himself or herself may not even know the content of those drugs, especially knowing in a few years later, you say, oh, there's a new and improved drugs, and this one caused that side effect, this other one caused that kind of side effect, and you have to get another pill to deal with the side effect of the previous pill. So it's like, so I don't think I want to be part of this. I mean, part of the reason why I was going in that direction was because of my older sister, who is now, I mean, who's a doctor, and she's an anesthesiologist. And so I was following her footsteps. But by being exposed to the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan while in college, especially in college, and learning more about myself, my nature, and what I would like to do and to be in life, I felt that it would be best that I engage myself in activism, and so I started to look more into law, but I did not make up my mind until after I graduated with a full pre-med concentration. I completed all the sciences, physics, chemistry, calculus too, in statistics and biology. And then, and I also have a psychology major. But after I finished with college, then I decided to teach for a year at the same high school from which I graduated. And my former teachers became my colleagues. And it was a very surreal experience to be around them. I still felt, you know, that sense of, you know, they are my superior, but for me to be in the same circle with them discussing lesson plans, I felt that I have grown. That was a pivotal moment in my development. And so right there at that time, while I was in teaching high school, I was teaching earth science, mathematics, and geometry, that I had an epiphany, and I decided to go to law school, and the rest is history.
So that's why I met Machandal.
Yes.
All right. I don't know, Francis, if you have a picture, you know, the picture with the back, you know, we like to remind us some of those moments, but if you don't, that's all right. I'll go into, there's a plane flying, so. They reopened the airport this week, so.
Oh.
Yes.
So you're gonna come to see me?
Sure, of course.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just give you a few reminders. You can contact Fondation Félicité, Fondation Marie-Claire Heureuse Félicité Bonheur des Salines, Fondation Félicité for short, on Facebook, on Twitter. Oh, great, great, great. Don't have to say all this. Wonderful. You have them. You have Fondation Félicité, you have the website, and you have, if you want to donate, if you wish to donate, then it's pour Fondation Félicité at gmail.com with PayPal. Thank you very, very much. And oh, there's a telephone 2509-2940-0869, and you'll reach us directly. You'll reach Fondation Félicité. Yeah, the picture I was talking about, Franz, if you have our brother with the mark back, where they wrote all over his back. But that's okay if you don't. We'll continue with our brother Makhandal, Minister Makhandal. So now you're a lawyer. What other interests, what other things interest you? Do you just go to trials or whatever lawyers do?
Before I went to law school, I must say that I went to Washington, D.C. at Georgetown University Law Center. And it was a pre-law program called Charles Hamilton Houston Institute. And that
hold on. Let's repeat that for our young folks who are considering, who are looking and not sure where they're going to go. Please repeat.
Yes, it's the name of the institute. The pre-law institute is called Charles Hamilton Houston Pre-Law Institute. It's at Georgetown Law Center, Georgetown University Law Center in Washington, D.C. It's run by Donald Temple, who is a Black activist and lawyer, and also Everett Bellamy, who is a dean at the Law Center at Georgetown University. And this really, what this experience really changed my life in many ways, or I should say give my life even better meaning. And because during that period of time, not only did I learn about the law, because I didn't want to just jump from pre-med into law school. So I wanted to see exactly what my interests, to confirm my interest in the legal field. And so I went to pre-law, that pre-law institute during the summer. And so from that experience, I learned a key phrase from Charles Hamilton Houston. He said that a lawyer can either be a social parasite or a social engineer. So yeah, so I decided to become a social engineer as opposed to a social parasite. So that's the reason why I got involved into immigration law. I do, I litigate a lot of cases pertaining to asylum. I recently won a major case for a Dominican of Haitian descent who was denationalized by the law of 168-13. And not only did I win the case in terms of getting him asylum for Dominican Republic, but I also won the case for asylum for Haiti as well. So he was granted asylum for both Haiti and Dominican Republic, which is unprecedented. And it's very interesting that I got the case and won that case because back in 2013, I participated in a rally in front of the Dominican Republic consulate on 42nd Street in Times Square. And I made that statement. It's one of those things, like as you're speaking, you are inspired because I have no notes. I'm trying to be like my teacher, you know, Mr. Louis Farrakhan. And then the inspiration came to my mind as I was speaking, and I said, and I'm calling on all Dominicans of Haitian descent, if you can make your way to America, file for an asylum so that you can get a refuge here in America. If America does not do anything about this situation, let them feel the brunt of you coming here through asylum. And I didn't know that I was a few years later, in 2019 actually, last year, that I would be the one to actually meet my own word and make it flesh.
Wonderful, wonderful. But some of us don't know what asylum is. Please educate us.
Yes, asylum is an application for refuge. You're seeking refuge from persecution. And there are several categories. that forms the basis for asylum in America. It could be asylum based on persecution based on race. It could be based on gender. It can be based on religion. It could be based on social grouping. And it could be based on political opinion. And so, or being tortured under the Convention Against Torture. So if you fall in under any one of those categories, and you can establish a nexus between your persecution and one of those protected categories, then you can be qualified for asylum. And of course, there has to be a lot of corroborating evidence to support that asylum application. And is encouraged to file this application within 1 year of coming to United States of America.
Thank you, Maître Machandal. Now, I heard that Maître Machandal was sometimes a politician as well.
Oh my God. Yes. Trying to live up to my name, Makhandal. Yes, he multifaceted. Actually, that part is the Yusef or Joseph, the man who wears the coat of many colors.
Mm-hmm.
I was a politician from the positive standpoint, not the negative connotation.
And that means?
That means my job was to engage in creating and fulfilling policies. We were creating policies that responds to the needs of the people, and I sought to implement those policies as well. So as a politician is really a policy maker and a policy implementer from my standpoint. And so I was a councilman in South Thames River in Ocean County, New Jersey. And from being a councilman, actually in 2008, when I became a councilman, we made history in the state of New Jersey by becoming the first elected or official of Haitian descent in the history of the state of New Jersey, along with another brother by the name of Yves Obo. Both of us won the election the same time and then sworn in on January 1st of 2009 on the same day as well, at the same time as well. So we both made history in that sense. And in 2010, I went into election for mayor, and by the grace of God, we won the election, and I became the first Haitian American elected mayor in the history of the state of New Jersey. And of course, the first Black mayor in the history of the county from which that particular town is located. They have never had a Black mayor who was popularly elected before, since the creation of that county in 1850. So we made history in that sense, and the first FOI or Muslim elected mayor in the history of the state of New Jersey from the Nation of Islam, and also the whole Nation of Islam as well.
Go ahead. You made a lot of firsts.
Praise
now,
God.
Let's talk a little bit about the name that you carry.
Yes, ma'am.
That man, Machandal, what about him made you want to carry this name?
You know, it's very interesting you mentioning that, because I heard so many negative things about Machandal, and a lot of misinformations, especially coming from the Jesuits, you know, those who wrote our history. They either don't mention him at all, or when they mention him, they just run with him. You know, it was just some...
leave their words for themselves.
Yeah,
now
leave
you
them.
tell me
Yes,
what
yeah.
made you want to carry this powerful name?
Yes, ma'am. So what made me want to carry this powerful name was his importance to the Haitian independence, his importance to development and the birthing of the Haitian revolutionary ideology and philosophy. He was the progenitor of the Haitian as an empire, really, even though it did not come into fruition. But he prophesied that. In fact, he called himself the Black Messiah. And I fell in love with that notion because there was always been some this campaign of demonization of our Haitian ancestors and the Haitian people in general. When the opposite is true, we were, yes, we were a people, a divine people, and so I decided to lift his name by lifting myself. The more I lift myself, I feel is the more I'm lifting his name. And today, there are many people I've seen that are calling their children Machandal, and even the spelling with Makhandal, which is something that I would say of my own choosing. And because the regular spelling is Macandal or Makandal.
Let's say the colonized spelling is
Yeah,
Macandal.
thank you,
All
Mother.
right.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Okay. Just as I feel, I sense the audience is a little bit, questioning about the Machandal. Let me just give a very short resume. Machandal was in the NIT's revolution in the very beginning, 1700s. So he's very early on, and his plot was that instead of since they had weapons, they had everything. We had all of nature, and we knew the leaves very well. We knew the plants, the fruits, the vegetables. Therefore, we can study here. One of his saying is, every leaf has two sides, one side to give you health and one side to take you off the planet. So if we learn how to use the leaf properly, we can send them all to sleep one eternal sleep. So that was, and he started training and teaching people how to do this. And the short of the story, he was captured 3 times. He was killed 3 times. And yet he rose again.
Yes.
So of course, many like to, oh, we live, how could we know? But anyway, in one case is there plenty of witnesses where he was hung. And when they felt, the neck went, the head went dead. And when they removed the rope and removed the body, then he jumped up and run. Number 2, he was burnt at the stake.
Yes.
And he walked out the fire. So those 2, there are plenty of witnesses that this is how he handled. So on the 3rd one, we're not sure. We don't have as much evidence as the first 2. Let's put it this way. So anyway, 3 times they killed him and 3 times he rose. But to me, the essence, what is most important is that we understand we have the knowledge to protect ourselves from all and every kind of wrongs that others would like to do to us if we study ourselves, if we study the right examples. And that's why they have messed up with our history so much and turned everything upside down. That's right. Because they don't want us to know the power that is sleeping right here. So yes, Makhandal is a great man. Machandal spoke several languages, at least 9 or 10 languages, including Arabic.
That's right.
Machandal knew how to read and write. So this whole concept that the conditioning that they put in our heads, that all of us in that Christian ferocious slavery system with people who didn't know how to read and write and didn't know this and didn't know that, we need to cleanse that from our mind and start to look at things differently so we can approach the truth in a better way. But we go back to our guest, Minister Yusef Makhandal. Ex-mayor, ex-councilman, lots of first in many ways. And we congratulate you. We're proud of you.
Praise God.
And now, such a handsome man.
Praise God.
Our sisters don't look. Tell us about your family life.
Yes, I have 3 children. I'm been married for 16 years now. I'm married to Haiti through a Haitian woman. And so I've always wanted to marry a Haitian since when I became conscious of myself, having heard the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. I woke up, and since I woke up, my desire had always been to marry a Haitian woman. Why? Because I felt that if I'm gonna evolve, if I'm gonna amass all this knowledge, wisdom, and understanding and wealth, the best way to share that wealth and share that product, which is not a final product yet, is to share my love with Haiti. And I can't go and grab the trees and grab the fruits and grab the earth. I have to grab that which came from the earth, and that is the Haitian woman. And by the grace of God, I found the one that I was looking for. Of course, in every marriage, there's always struggles. In our faith tradition in Islam, they say that marriage, one who is single is only practicing half of their faith. When you marry, that's when you are actually practicing your full faith. Why? Because you have to engage in struggles. Just because you hit or some bump in the road, that does not mean you did not find the right one. It's just a struggle that you have to overcome. So by the grace of God, we have overcame many struggles, and that through that we have had 3 beautiful children. The first one is Nahala, and the second one is Jamina, and my third one, who's a boy, his name is Malakan. So Nahala is a name that I created, is coming from 2 Muslims' names, Naz, which means creation or man, and Allah means creator, or the creator, or the God, because the word Allah is 2 words, Al, which means two, the, and Lah means God. So Allah, the God. So her name is the creation of God. And Jamina is Ja Amina. Jamina is Ja, also is a derivative of the word God. And Amina, like Amin, so be it. So God be. And Malakan, whom I created as well, is a derivative of Malachi and also Farrakhan. So we have Malachi and Farrakhan put together gives you Malakan. So he's a messenger, a king, a ruler. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, you are a Muslim. You are Asian, right?
Yes.
And If I were to ask you to sing with me a voodoo song, what would you say?
I would say bring it on, because I'm also a voodoo practitioner too.
All right.
Yes.
So let's call on Ibolele, because our people's greatest lacking is the inability to remember. So Ibolele is the force of memory, that which remembers the memory of humanity. So we're gonna send a few notes of Ibolele, Ibolele, oh, Ibolele, oh, mayamagam, bajwe, Ibolele. Go ahead.
Ibolele, oh, Ibolele, Ibolele. Yeah, I go. The reason why I say that I'm a voodoo practitioner is because, and in fact, as I was speaking to a friend of mine about that, all Haitians are voodoo practitioners. If you were born in Haiti and you are speaking Creole, you are a voodoo practitioner, because Creole is a byproduct of voodoo. It came from that culture. It came from that system of belief. So the thinking, the words, the intonations, the nonverbal communications, the para languages, all of those things are embedded into the practice of the language, which comes from voodoo itself. So those Christians, those pastors who are preaching in Creole, I'm sorry, are practicing voodoo.
And you don't mention the food.
The food, yes, of course, the food, the banan pesé.
You don't mention the food. You know,
Yeah.
it makes me laugh sometimes. Somebody comes here and I offer them some tea. And they say, oh, no, I'm a Christian. You know, because the tea, I'm going to pick my leaves, you know, right there in the yard.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. If you have a bag or something. I said, no, I have no bag. Everything is natural here. I'll just pick up the leaves right here and give you the hot water,
Thank you.
and we can have the tea. I'm a Christian. I can't. I said, well, do you eat rice? You shouldn't. The same voodoo spirit that made that tea leaves grow made the corn. It's still zaka. The corn, the chicken, the plantains, all of it is zaka's work.
Cousin Zaka.
Right. So if you do not eat, you don't take the tea, then you should not eat the rest of the food either.
Allah Akbar. Aibobo.
Aibobo.
Wow.
So, you see, we have to be more, we can't lock ourselves into little boxes. You have to be all that you are.
Yes, ma'am.
All the power of the universe is in each one of us. And to change the situations we're in around this planet first, we must be ourselves. We must tap into all the forces that are sleeping inside us.
That's right. You mentioned it because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that we must accept our own and be ourselves. These 6 words have been my boussole, if you want to call it,
Compass.
my compass, because that's what allows me to be a Muslim, but at the same time, I can say that I am a voodoo practitioner. I embrace my culture. I lift my ancestors up. I recognize their value and their power. Whereas those other religious denomination or sect or order, they do not allow you to be yourself. You can't be a Christian and at the same time embrace voodoo culture or some tea as our mother just mentioned.
Some nice basil tea.
Yes, that's gonna be good for you, especially during the coronavirus. Okay.
Exactly. So, yes,
Oh my goodness.
we have looked at your life. We've looked at your various professions. Now let's look at you in the nation.
Mm.
In my years in the nation, what I admired most was the discipline. How is the discipline in the nation today?
Well, the discipline remains strong. In fact, we believe and we also always say that the restrictive laws of Islam is our success, because we feel that in order for the nation to thrive, in order for the nation to remain strong, we have to be mindful of our morals. Good morals um, leads to good character. And so we are always striving to um, follow the restrictive laws in terms of how we treat ourselves, how we eat to live. By the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, eating one meal a day. I myself, I eat once every 2 days. I've been doing that since 2013, as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And it is law now in the Nation of Islam by the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan that every member of the Nation of Islam must adhere to the dietary law of eating one meal a day. I've already passed that stage. As I indicated, I'm eating once every 2 days. Sometimes I eat once every 3 days, depending on how I feel. And there's also this discipline about the way we see the women. We have a lot of respect for the women. We see them as God's laboratory, where God is able to continue civilization. So this entity called women is very, very important in the sight of God, and it must be very important in those who believe in God. And so we protect our women in every way possible in our nation. And we lift them up by ensuring that they become knowledgeable, because we believe that the woman is the first teacher, the first nurse. If she is well educated, she will produce a well educated child, and the child who represents the nation will be the one to carry the future of our nation. So these are some of the examples that I can give, but those are the things that I can say that I learned being raised by my grandfather, in terms of how to respect elders, and the necessity for us to be steward of our community, to be active in our community. I learned a lot of the similarities that exist between the way my grandfather, who I call father, raised me, because my father and my mother were living in America, and I was in Haiti with my grandfather. And the discipline that my father used to impose upon me, in, for instance, studying all the time. My grandfather used to tell me, "Masho livo, vle pou sort son bagay demain." And in the Nation of Islam, it's the same way. A Muslim in the Nation of Islam must always be found studying, because we have a definition of God. It's not just ethereal, just formless being in the sky. We say that, according to the Quran as well, that God is the best knower. So if we want to strive to become gods, we have to be found always studying, always acquiring knowledge, because the more we know, the more we are approaching Godship. So that's what I would share.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that women is viewed as a laboratory, and how are the men viewed?
The man is also viewed the same way too, from a mental perspective, because we are taught that a man has one womb, whereas the woman has two wombs. The womb of the man is his mind, and if the man is taught properly, he also will be a good provider, a good protector, a good man. And the same goes for the woman as well. If the woman is taught properly in her womb, which is the womb of her mind, she also will reflect the same characteristics of being a good provider, a good protector as well, because they both can play the same role, but customarily in our society, whereas other societies may have a different take on that. That role of being a protector or provider in our construct is placed upon the man, even though the woman is able to play that same role as well in the absence of the man, or both can do it together in this capitalistic construct. And but the woman also have her womb, which is the matrice, her where she can carry the baby. So the womb of the mind and the womb of her, matrix, placenta, they are connected to one another. So her attitude, her mental state, her mood, all of that can affect the baby that is growing in her womb, in her belly, in her placenta. And so that is considered as a laboratory as well, because that's where the formation of those tissues and the minds and the organs of the baby is going on. That's why we also insist that the woman during that period of time is placed in a very safe environment. Don't watch all kinds of horror movies. Don't consume any kinds of food. This is the best time to watch what kind of food that the woman consume, and making sure that she's taking proper care of herself, and the man is helping in ensuring that she has the necessary nutrients and sustenance to help grow that beautiful child, the future of our nation.
Thank you, sir. Now, we all know that the first government is the family.
Yes.
And if we look at the structure of families in different cultures, if I take Haiti as an example, we find that women run the family. The women are responsible for everything, all the collective, worrying about where the children will go to school, what they will eat when they come back, the clothes are clean or not clean, et cetera, et cetera. So the bulk, I could even easily say 90% of running of that government is women's work. Do you agree? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So when we look at that situation, when you have a girl and a boy, the girl will very early be charged with responsibilities in the family. She either has to clean her younger sisters, she has to feed somebody who is sick, she has to do, but taking care again of the collective, that's 9%, 90% of the time, it's the girl or the woman's task. Men can watch TV, play football. When they come from school, they can do whatever they want to do with their times. But the girls usually have tons and tons and tons of tasks to do. Now, when they get to be your girl and your boy, when they become, let's say 30, 40, the men will say, I'm going into politics. But this is the same person who's always been watching TV, reading his books, doing things for himself, and not worrying about the family. Whereas the person who has been running the government from day one has been the female. The women have been doing this. Grandmama, the aunts, the mothers, the girls, everybody have tasks. The girl could be 4 or 5, and the mother wouldn't hesitate to say, well, go pick up your brother's clothes and go wash this, go feed grandma who's not feeling well today. They will not ask that of the boy. But this is the person who tomorrow wants to be president, wants to be senator, wants to be a deputy, who has never cared for no group, no collective, has always had his life. So as we look, I'm not a feminist, but I just look at reality. As we look at the reality, this person who's never cared about the next person, the person next to them, how can this person not claim to care about the people of Haiti? What do you think?
I agree wholeheartedly with that statement. In fact, I went to a conference where I was to speak there, and there was a few speakers who preceded me, and they made the very same statement that you stated, and it was my turn to speak. Then I expressed my agreement with their statement, but I also indicated to them that it is the responsibility of both father and mother, particularly the mother, to ensuring that we don't raise our boys and our girls unevenly. We have to raise them properly so that what you just described will not be reflected in our society. That boy who's sitting on the couch is not raising himself. He's being raised, and we have to look at who's doing the raising to ensure that we change our approach in terms of how we deal with the boy versus the girl. It starts at home. That first government, that first nation that the woman is in charge of, which you mentioned, has to be revolutionized. We have to create a revolution, and I think it starts with our women.
True. When I look back in African culture, the African family, men and women had tasks in raising their children. And in fact, after a certain age, depending on different cultures, it might be 13, it might be 14, the boy has to be always with his father and learning the things that his father does, learning to do the things that his father does. And here, many boys may not have a working father, a father that is doing what, father, grandfather, uncle, it doesn't matter, but a male figure that is doing the type of things that you want this child to do tomorrow. Like one thing you said that's very important, that learning must be continuous. We must constantly be busy learning more today than we knew yesterday. That's vital. So I've seen some studies showing that women read much more than men. So then women are learning more. Women will take more chances into different, trying something new and whatnot. So it's important for us that we do. I agree with you absolutely. There is a revolution necessary in every different kinds of governmental structure, whether family, whether institutional, whether wherever, that we are attentive to the practices that are usually done, and we are careful when there is need for correction that the correction is brought about.
That's right.
And, you know, that's very important. So we are at the point where we're going to open up so all those who want to talk to you can do so. And at this point, I will remind you that you can contact Fondation Félicité via all the things that Front is going to show you there. Just repeat the number 509-29-400869. And the website, fondationfelicité.com. And PayPal is pourfondationfelicité@gmail.com. But we enjoy receiving emails too. We enjoy when you ask questions. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if there's somebody, an artist, who sent me a message. I know I read it, and I intended to respond to this message at some point during the week, but then I couldn't find who it was. So please, if you're an artist who asked me a question, and ask it again, because I don't know if you email me, if you WhatsApp me or whatever, I would like to give you the answer. And now I turn it over to Franz so we can stop the dialogue, and do it a family log now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, fantastic. All right, everybody, you know the deal, you know the drill. Go ahead and on your participant screen, there's a raise hand icon, and you can raise your hand and you'll be put in the queue that you can ask your question. And I will pick and I'll choose you to ask your question to the brother Yusef Makhandal. Great stories, man. I really appreciate it. Listening to you, man, you've done a lot of great things. And also you carry the name of one of my favorite revolutionaries.
Yes.
You know,
I'm surprised you're not wearing your Machandal hat today.
You know what? I should have worn my Machandal hat today. You're right about that. I reminded everybody in the chat room that the second book that I published was Machandal, the Black Messiah. And it was actually, and I believe we spoke briefly yesterday, Yusef, that it was the first book that I wanted to publish because he affected, when I was reading about him, he affected my life tremendously. But I kind of wanted to tell the story of IET first and the revolution, and then the second book that out was Machandal. But that was originally the first book that I wrote because I do believe, just like how his story affected you, it affected me as well. I should have gone the next step like you did and changed my name, but but if I have any more children, I will make sure I'll name them Machandal. All right, so let's go to the questions. I see a few hands being raised. So first person I will is Yaya, Dr. Yaya Coleman. Please go ahead and unmute and ask a question.
Greetings. I'm not a doctor. I'm Yaya, Sister Yaya from Belize.
Yaya, it's okay.
Thanks, the brother, for thinking about me that way. Brother, I have to give you greetings on behalf of the Nation of Islam followers in Belize, in particular from Imam Nuri Muhammad.
Oh, yes. Salam alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. You're the first follower of Nation of Islam that I have heard publicly declare that you're also a follower of an African spirituality such as Vodun.
Praise be to Allah.
And salute, I respect that. How does the Nation of Islam leadership process that? Because I'm extremely excited to hear you say that, but was there a process you had to go through with them to be at the stage where you can publicly declare that?
That's very good. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that wisdom is our birthright. We should get it wherever we can find it. no one can deny that there is wisdom in voodoo. No one can deny that. In fact, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan always reminds us that it was the voodoo practitioners and the Muslims who were responsible for the birthing of this nation, who were responsible for formulating this army, this indigenous army that led to the creation of this nation called Haiti. Machandal was a Muslim, but also he delved into animist activities as well. Back then, they didn't necessarily call it voodoo. It was an animist, which means that we believe in the power of the plants, the nature, and we do believe in a grand loi. So there are a lot of similarities between Islam and the voodoo philosophy. For instance, when we talk about the attributes of Allah, those attributes is the Al-Fatiha, the opening. The opening can be, can be compared with Ligba. Ligba is the opener as well. And there are many others that I could cite. And so we believe, as we are taught, that truth begets truth. If you can find the principles that undergirds a system and it is true, then those truths complement each other. In fact, when the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan came to Haiti in December 14, 2011, I was his translator. He was asked, why is it that you come to Haiti? He said pointedly that voodoo is what I came to learn. I know something about Christianity. I know something about, I know about Christianity. I know about Islam, but I don't know anything about voodoo. And I recognize that it was the voodoo practitioners who largely contributed to the creation and the establishment of this great nation. And I'm here to learn and to share with the Haitian people. And then he proceeded to meet with Max Beauvoir. I was there at that meeting where they went over the similarities and the point of commonalities between Islam and voodoo. They even touch about on Christianity as well to some extent. And so it is why I can safely say that I believe in the principles that undergirds this system of belief called voodoo, and while still maintaining that I am a Muslim. A Muslim is one who submits his will entirely to do the will of God. And I'm sure meeting with any voodoo practitioner, they would indicate that they're doing the will of the Lord. So there is but one God. He's the source of everything, whether you call it Loi or Allah, which sort of has some similarities in phonetically. We're still talking about the main source. So that's how I would answer that question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. All right, thank you for your question, Sister Yaya. All right, next up is we have another doctor, Dr. Samuel. You could go ahead and unmute Samuel. You could go ahead and unmute, ask your question, please.
Hi, everyone. God bless you all.
Hello.
My name is Rosalie. This is my sister, Samuel. I was just wanting to ask, because I've heard a lot of the talks, and we're Christian, and we're proud of that. And we've heard the talks, and today even, Minister Machandal spoke about his affinity for the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who was also a Baptist minister like my dad, and we grew up in church, and we have an affinity for everything that we were raised with as Haitian American Christian women.
Yes.
And I just find it that we don't give that same grace when we should be intentional about giving that grace to everyone that is a member of the human race and a member of the Abrahamic religion. We discount the fact that it's not it's not something that's, you know, foreign. It's something that has been in the world for many years, this culture and this religion and this tradition. And why is it that we don't, you know, show that same grace to Christians as much as we can, and as much as would be needed to reclaim the history of Christianity for Africans and for people of African descent, of the diaspora?
Thank you for your question. And it's a very important question. To answer your question directly, part of the reason why is because of the history of Christianity vis-a-vis Black people, African people. What the so-called Christian did to the Native Americans when they came in 1492, killing over 2 million Native Americans and giving them smallpox, and giving them all kinds of disease, destroying them, taking away their resources, taking away their land. And we know about the history of the Christians, so-called Christians in Africa as well. They came with the Bible, and then they took away our land. And so the history of colonialism, the history of those people, Europeans to be specific, coming with an ideology and philosophy in the good name of Jesus Christ. We must make a distinction between the teachings of Jesus Christ versus Christianity, because Christianity is a made-up religion by the European for specific purpose of colonizing the minds of the people worldwide. And so that's the reason why the Honorable Mr. Rose Farrakhan will always stress the necessity for us to lift the name of Jesus Christ up, especially during Christmas time. Lift his name up and down center, because center is really part of that made-up religion called Christianity, where they're promoting the image of whites as being angelic, divine, and to in a sense they are promoting white supremacy. And so this is what is affecting the Black minds, to the point where they do not believe in their own value. They want to bleach their skin. They're rejecting their hair. They're constantly trying to look like the image, that false image of Jesus that they presented to them. Revelation 1 verse 14 and 15 describes specifically what Jesus looks like. He had hair like lamb's wool and feet like burnished brass, as if it was burnt in an oven. His mother was born in Egypt and raised in Egypt. Egypt is not in Europe. Egypt is in Africa. So how come this African woman producing a baby come out buttermilk complexion? It's unfathomable. So that's what we are rejecting as far as the Christianity. All those things that comes along with that religion in the good name of Jesus Christ. in trying to subjugate the people and enslaving their minds. And so we don't have any issue with Jesus the Christ. The issue is with those imposters who are using his good names to enslave us and to continue to kill us.
Could I respond, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I totally agree with everything you have just said, but I feel like people just don't have that clarity when we don't make that difference for them to know that Christianity was stolen from us. It was synthesized into this perverse religion that they have created and given these false images that now they're telling us, well, you shouldn't do whatever or whatever they may say in Christianity. But I feel like we as a people, we really need to understand what true Christianity is, and that it's not something that is non-African. They didn't come to us with a Bible. They stole our Bible, and they stole all of our history of Christianity from the churches in Ethiopia and Eritrea and Africa, in Egypt. We had this history for a long time before they're telling us, oh no, this is what Christianity is. We've already had that. So I encourage everyone to, look into knowing what true Christianity is and knowing who Yeshua HaMashiach is and knowing the difference between that and whatever it is that is in the world now.
Yeah, I really love this topic, and I wish perhaps we can come back and delve more into it, because when we talk about Christianity, all these religion, to be very blunt with you, all those prophets, they didn't come to us Africans, because we were not the ones who were in caves in the hillsides of Europe. They came to those in the caves in the hillside to civilize them, to stop their lifestyle. Moses came to them. Jesus, all the prophets came to trying to civilize these people who were living in caves in hillside of Europe. But one after one, they went after them. They killed them. They killed Jesus. They killed all the prophets, and they're still killing those of us who are crying out for freedom, justice, and equality. And we are taught that we are the modern Jesus, in the sense that Jesus means the just one, or the ones who are seeking justice, the one who stands for freedom, justice, and equality. We don't want to get so spaced out and start, thinking about this person as some Caucasian person who's just coming from a cloud, coming down on us. No, it is your brothers and sisters, those of us who are in this struggle for freedom, justice, and equality. We are the ones who are on the cross. We are the ones who are nailed. We are the ones whose feet are bound and can't do for ourselves, because we are being subjugated by an oppressor. And the same oppressor that oppressed and killed Jesus is the same one that we're dealing with today. Praise God. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Ma Bello, you're muted, but would you like to add anything?
Yes, please. Thank you. I'll say this. If I have a book and somebody takes my book and go through 10 centuries of tampering with that book, I don't want that book anymore. I want to burn it. Because I wrote the book, I can write any book I want. I have the ability. Why should I continue to be attached to a book that so many wicked devils have tampered with? I don't want it, period. I do not want to follow people who've committed genocides over 5 continents. I want no part of them. I do not want to be part of people who think they should eat and others should starve. When they use what they call science, your Christian science, what they call science, they use it to remove the seeds from the fruits. So then after I eat, I have no choice but to come back to them, because my fruit, which should have brought me the seeds so I could have the tree the next time, they have removed it from it, and they call that science. I call that criminals. So we are clear. There are certain behaviors that people have had. These people, we should have at least, at best, we should have great distance with everything they've touched. That's my position.
All right. Okay, so I think she made her position very clear. So let's move on to the next question. All right, so next question comes from Melissa. Melissa, you could go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hey, how y'all doing? How you doing, France? Peace to you, my Bello. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, and I'm not about peace. I'm about fighting today.
That's
Let's
right.
fight.
Whoa.
Let's fight. I hear that. Well, assalamu alaikum, Minister Machandal. Nice to meet
Walaikum
you.
salam, sister. Likewise, thank you.
Yes. I wanted to ask you, because I've been curious ever since I've seen it, the significance of your bow tie. It's interesting. It's two like both those colors. It's like they're like rivals. But I'm wondering if putting them together, is that sort of like a symbol of like trying to bring our people together and kind of trying to push forth unity? Or I'm curious about your bow tie in a way, in a sense.
Thank you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that every 50,000 years, there is a blue and a red star that comes in the universe that signify a complete change. That blue and the red here represents that. It also, to me, represent unity. As you can see here in America, there is a constant struggle between various gang members. The ones that stands for the Bloods and the Crip, they have the blue and the red. These are some of the indication as to why I'm wearing it. I mean, there is some level of reason as well as it pertains to the false Haitian flag, the blue and the red.
The false Haitian flag? I'm sorry. I've never heard about that.
Well, we know the real one is the black and the red, but right now the one that is being represented to us is the red and the blue, which so there's different reasons why I'm wearing this particular color, but it's not specific. It's not just for one reason. It's plenty.
Okay,
One thing is clear. One thing is clear. This is a man who has a policy about what he does. He doesn't just do, but whatever. When he dresses, he has his politics. When he smiles, he has his politics. And that's the way all of us should be. We should always be conscious that every act we pose, everything we do, we have a good reason for doing it. That's self-control.
Okay, all right. I have one more little question too, just one more. As far as with African voodoo, with voodoo, did you kind of start practicing voodoo when you when you lived in Haiti, or is that something that you started practicing more after you got into Islam? I mean, which one came first?
Unconsciously, I've been practicing voodoo since I was born. Like I indicated before, voodoo is not just religion; it's also culture. I was born in Haiti. Yeah, I was born in Haiti. I was not born in Germany. So, you know, all the medicines, you know, herbal medicines, the food that I ate, the language that I spoke, this is essentially from the voodoo culture itself. So I was practicing the culture of voodoo unknowingly, not knowing that it was actually voodoo until I joined the Nation of Islam, and the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, taught us about the necessity for us to delve into our roots, our identity as a people, which is something that other so-called religious sect or order does not promote at all. And that's the reason why I can safely and correctly state that besides being one who submit his will to do the will of God as a Muslim, I'm also a voodoo practitioner.
Fantastic. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question, Melissa. All right, let's move on to the next one. Rose. Rose, you could go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Rose.
Yes, greetings, peace.
Greetings.
Mama Bella and Minister. I just want to say that I know that Haitians are everywhere, but Mama Bella and friends put on these amazing Zooms that allow us to see ourselves in so many different forms. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for enlightening us. How did your family basically, react to you when you decided that you wanted to join the nation, knowing that evolution is growth, and being that a lot of Haitian parents are stuck on what they were taught, they don't necessarily accept change. So how were you able to transition and still be wrapped in the culture while practicing your spiritual enlightenment to where you are today? How did that correlate? How did you make that transition or evolve with that and with your family?
Thank you for this question. I will start with me. How did I evolve to the point of accepting the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and to become a Muslim? I was not looking for no religion. That was not even a concern of mine. In fact, I was not someone who necessarily defined myself by a religious order or sect. And I was more, I've always have been interested about Haiti, about the struggles of my people, the poor, and I would always be found feeding the homeless, feeding some of my friends who would be in the neighborhood who were without food and money. I would share with them. I have that kind of heart. And so when I came to the United States, I started listening to Dr. King. I was enamored, unmitigated gall to face injustice, although I did not necessarily agree with his method, but the fact that he stood, that attracted me. So as I was delving, searching more, and I stumbled on the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, who was talking about him, Dr. King, and he, I began to become more interested about hearing what he has to say, and I was learning a lot from him. A lot of questions that I had about this country, the United States of America, he addressed them and answered them, and then so I still did not know he was a Muslim, because the man is a prolific speaker. He was criticizing the Christians. He was criticizing the Muslims. He was criticizing the Jews. So I was like, what is his religion? Because those religious practitioners or those religious leaders, usually they would stand and just proselytize and promote their faith. And then they say, oh, their faith is better than this, and just be so narrow-minded. But this man was being critical of every or religion or everyone who were not living up to the standard by which their book is expected. So I was very interested in that. I fell in love with his thinking, and I fell in love with his position. And so I went to the Million Man March in 1995, and uh, I was completely convinced that this is a man that I want to follow because of the breadth of knowledge that he has to share in terms of how to eat, to live, in terms of how to be an effective leader in a community, in terms of how to be accepting of other religious views without losing yourself, in terms of delving into your own identity. And of course, my parents, they were not as receptive, particularly my father. He was not as receptive. And my mother, she was different because because like I mentioned before, I didn't know her until I turned 13 years old. She was always tolerant of me, trying to catch up with all those years. And I would, share with her what I have been learning. But one issue I had with her one day was because in the Nation of Islam, we eat one meal a day, and we eat after 4. We don't eat before that time. And my mom prepared food for me, and he was like 3:30, and she wanted me to eat, and I'm like, no, Mom, it's not 4 o'clock yet. And I was watching the clock, and she was very upset over that because I had to wait until it was 4 o'clock for me to eat. But other than that, eventually they began to see the change in me. I used to stutter and stammer a lot speaking, and I used to weigh a lot, over 240 pounds, and to the point where they used to tease me in high school that I had no neck, because I was so big, not to use the F word. So my parents started seeing the change in me, and then they became very accepting of me, to the point where they traveled to meet with the minister at some point, particularly my mom. My father didn't get a chance to do that. My mom met with him, and the rest is history.
Just one more thing. So with your evolution, do you feel that I understand that you weren't looking for religion, that you were just looking for yourself, and you just happened to divinely come across the minister?
Yes.
But when you got that like knowing what you know now about spirituality and the correlation between voodoo and Islam and Christianity, do you think that like you need to stay in the nation in order to facilitate your growth in what it is to be knowledgeable of your spiritual side? Because all of it is spirituality. It's not necessarily religion. If we're going back to what the minister said, like he knows what Christianity is, he knows what the Nation of Islam is, but he wants to know what voodoo is. But isn't all of that translated into our original self, which is spirituality before religion? So, and I'm not taking away, because I am like phenomenally impressed by all your accomplishments as a Haitian man, in the Nation of Islam. But I just want to know, like, since you gained all this information, now do you have to stay in the nation to do the same work? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm
Yeah.
trying to.
Yes, it does make sense. and it's a fair question. I would answer the question like this. God is a living God. Life is perpetual. Life continues to go on. There are, and God is self-revealing. And throughout history, we see the evolution of God, his history himself. We see the revelation of the Torah um, uh, through Moses and the prophets, Abraham. And we see the introduction of the angels or the gospel through Isa or Yahshua or Jesus. And we see the revelation of the Holy Quran through Prophet Muhammad. And so these are evolutionary expression of God's ever presence in providing more and more knowledge. And we also see, from my standpoint, the history of Haiti. For me, the history of Haiti, if we were careful in capturing the words, in capturing the sayings of our brothers and sisters, our heroes, our heroine, we would have been able to easily come up with another religious expression, because from my standpoint, the history of Haiti is the history of God through the Haitian people, where there was the history of Haiti, from my standpoint, verified what was written in the Quran, and it verifies what was written in the Bible. It verifies what was written in the Torah, because when we look at people like Machandal, Bookman, Dessalines, from my standpoint, they are the Moses that is written of. Moses is spoken more in the Quran than Prophet Muhammad. And so when we have a scenario like this, as we evolve, we should, I believe that time also reveals other revelations as well. God reveals other revelation as well. And I believe, from my standpoint as well, that in the American construct in America, the history that we saw developing in Haiti with Machandal, Bookman, and Dessalines, and Cecile Fatima, Tantoya, and many other women, I believe that history is cyclical in nature. It repeated itself with the advent of Master Fard Muhammad, who came on July 4th, 1930, to declare us independent from the Caucasian white man, and from their oppression, to establish a nation of our own, calling the nation of Islam. As Machandal prophesied that we would have a nation of our own, we would become the masters of the land where we were made slave. Master Fard Muhammad came on July 30th, 1930, on July 4th, 1930, to declare us independent, so that eventually we'll become a nation within a nation. And so Machandal, to me, is was a sign of Master Fard Muhammad, was a sign of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was a sign of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, fulfilling, verifying the history of Haiti, as the history of Haiti verified the Quran, the angels, and the Torah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
And I did watch the minister's I did watch his Criterion. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, the
I
Criterion.
watched it. The
Yeah.
Criterion. I watched it, so it was very informative too. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're down to our final 2 questions. Hopefully you have a few more minutes for us. Minister Makhandal.
Yes, sir.
All right, so next question comes from Sakanya. Sakanya Pierre. You can go ahead, unmute yourself, ask your question, please. Or Sakania.
It's Sashania. You can call me Sasha.
Sasha, okay, there you go, Sasha.
Thank you. Thank you, Mama Bello. Thank you, Hans, and thank you, Minister Yusef, for doing this with us. I only have 2 questions, simple questions. My first question is that the Honorable Minister Farrakhan dedicated his life to Black people. Why is it taking so long for us to wake up? I just don't understand why it's just so hard. I mean, a lot of us are waking up. We get that we are on the time of information right now. We get that part. But how come it's only a few people that understand that, a few people that it's awakening to what's really happening? We have Professor Bello, same thing, teaching us, educating us. But why? I'm just confused as to why it's taking us so long.
That's a very fair question. Part of it is because the enemy is doing everything in its power to prevent us from resurrecting to ourselves. While we, when I say we, I'm referring to Professor Bello and the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan. Let me back off. The Honorable Professor Bello, the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, as we have leaders who are speaking and who are teaching us. A few of us are rising up, but there are others who are still asleep, not because they have not heard, but also it's because they have been also bombarded with the false concept, the false teaching, and they have tied the little blessings that they have received from the enemy as a crouch, as a way to keep them into their false ideology and philosophy. We see that a lot in Haiti. Can you imagine a country that is known to be the number one, the first country to abolish slavery? The country whose leader, Dessalines, whose name could not be mentioned for over 50 years, not even teaching his philosophy, but just mentioning his name. And you have a people like that in Haiti right now. You're talking about the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan speaking for 65 years. We're talking about a country that was established by strong leaders who have taken over a whole land and said, this is ours, and we dare you coming to set your feet on that land. Will eliminate you. So, and yet the enemy was so powerful through education and religion, miseducation and false religion. They were able to come and conquer the mind of our people. And it's the same thing that they are doing right now to the churches and to the schools. And so, but I believe that their time is up because more people are waking up to the reality of their bestiality and brutality and devilishment. And at some point, they're gonna have to face the fact that separation is the only solution. We are asking for a nation of our own. We want land. That's what the Nation of Islam is pushing for as a solution to this crisis going on. People calling for Black Lives Matter and want to destroy monuments as a way of pacifying us. No, we want land. Just like Dessalines didn't just want to be some kind of surrogate of Napoleon, like Toussaint Louverture wanted. No, he wanted to be free, completely free and separated, and wanted to have his own land that he can call his own. Same way, Nation of Islam, we are calling for our own separate land and territory, 8 to 10 states. And you may ask, well, where are we gonna find it? And what justification do we have? The justification is strictly based, from my standpoint, this has not been proved by leadership yet in the nation, but I'm advocating that as an attorney, that those Louisiana territory that the French illegally sold to America for $15 million, which is now the home of 15 states in America. Those belong to the Haitian people. Those belong to Black people. Because the same justification we had to claim Haiti as our land because we defeated Napoleon, everything that belonged to him in that hemisphere belonged to us too. So in 1803, when he entered into this contract with the United States of America, it was an illegal contract because he had already been defeated by us, and therefore we should use that historical component to as the basis to push for the request for those 8 to 10 states that we are seeking as a form of reparation in all these struggles that we have to go through in America, in the Western Hemisphere.
Thank you for that. I pray that sorry, Mama, go ahead.
Well, first of all, I say, now that's a real lawyer. I've been looking for a lawyer. And I think I found my lawyer right here on the spot. I can only pay $7 a month or something like that.
Okay, no problem.
All right, we'll talk and make the contract.
Yes,
That's the kind of thinking we need. People who will think how to deal with the problem in very serious ways and in the line of what our ancestors did. And I really enjoy hearing you saying, and which is a fact, the rule of law is, if I fight against you and I win, everything you own belongs to me.
that's right.
As a matter of fact, Napoleon was one who, when he wins a battle, not only does he keep all the weapons that the others have, he has all the officers take off their clothes and leave the uniforms because it's all his. Okay?
Oh.
Now, the difference, when they lost in Haiti, Dessalines, the magnanimous man that he is, Dessalines told them, all right, I'll give you boats so you can get back to France. I'll give you the food you need for the 3 months ride back to France. And since your country has many enemies, I will give you the weapons and ammunition to defend yourself so you can get to France. And he gave them everything. He says, what's his name? Rochambeau. Rochambeau said to Dessalines, but also he wrote in his journal, he says, being French, even though he gave me all of that, I couldn't imagine, but I had to ask for something more. But what about wounded soldiers? Dessalines said, well, we will take care of them, and when they are well, we will ship them back to you. That's the kind of end of a war that we did. And they're gonna call this man all kinds of names.
Savage, yeah.
All right? So, but what happened? Even a cannon we gave them so they could defend themselves. When they got offshore, they turned the cannon and started shooting at us. Yes. After signing the rendition, after everything, these are not people who have any words. They're not people of their words. We must always remember that.
Devils.
So, exactly. So they turned the cannons to us and start shooting at us. And some Capois and different people were taking position. Dessalines said, no, let them go. They have plenty enemies. They will find the answer at sea. And Dessalines took his men and get away from the shore. And sure enough, they never tell you the end of the story. When Rochambeau left Saint-Domingue and took to the sea, he met with British armies and he lost the battle. And he was arrested and spent 8 years in jail. They never tell us the end of that story. Okay, so, but yes, absolutely what you say is correct. We cannot talk of reparation without talking about land. L-A-N-D. That's number one. A
That's
territory
right.
of our own.
Our
It's
own.
a
That's
must.
right. That's
And
right.
let me drop this. There are 11 towns, cities, villages, I don't know what they are qualified as, but there are 11 of them in the United States. Name I Hayti.
Right.
Check them out.
Yes, I've seen them.
Go check out their story. See what happened. These are our people there, and our people name their town Haiti. And often the US government gives it another name.
Wow.
Professor Bello, may I please ask you a question, if I'm allowed?
Franca, do you allow?
There is 3 o'clock. It's coming to the end.
Sorry.
We could make it very, very quick. Quick question, quick answer, because we have one more question. Well,
Then that's fine. I'll save it for next time. Thank you, Franz.
okay, Sasha, thank you. We catch you next time. Okay, so for the final question of this program, we go to Marlene. Marlene, go ahead and unmute. Ask a question, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Hello, Professor Bello. Hello. I don't want to say professor, Mr.
Professor.
Mr. Professor Makhandal. My question is really not really a question, it's a comment to an earlier discussion about you in the Nation of Islam and also being able to be a Vodouiza as a Haitian.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say that I also did kind of have a similar route to spirituality as you did, meaning that I grew up in the Vodou tradition. My grandmother, my mother, I grew up as a young child watching all the Voodoo ceremony. And as a Haitian, you are already in the Voodoo, even if you're not really doing the ceremony anyway. But,
That's right.
you know, there's no getting it out of you. But I was really never, I did my first communion because, as you know, in the Haitian culture, they just like you just said, Professor Bello, like Dessalines said, well, let him have the weapons. And then it's almost, they said, well, you want to go to church and do your first communion. Well, you go ahead and do that. You can go ahead and do that. But you come back home and this is what we do. So that never really kind of confused me. You know, what I saw in front of me, to me, was more the real thing. Where I got lost was when I came here in America, being removed from it and being removed from my folks who were now dead. Then I tried to look for spirituality elsewhere. And I studied Buddhism, I studied Hinduism, I studied even Sufism. I mean, I studied a lot of different religions. And for a while I felt like, okay, I think I'm okay. But the thing that kept messing with me was the identity part. I couldn't reconcile the identity part because no one had given me a platform to be my complete self where I can bring everything and say, this is me. I couldn't, even in Buddhist, I couldn't say Aibobo, I couldn't tell them my story. I just couldn't find myself. So I kept searching and I kept searching. And then I was doing a meditation once, a Tibetan Buddhism. And in the meditation, I realized there was a lot of similarities between what they were doing, what they were saying, maybe, even though it wasn't in a language I can understand, but I felt something was similar to what I witnessed as a child. And that told me that I needed to go back. I needed to go all the way back and go take a look at that again. That maybe what I'm looking for all along is the very thing that I had let go so long ago, and now it's calling me. And I went back and I found myself totally. And to say that, what I'm saying is you can stay in another religion, whatever religion you think works for you, but as long as you can be your total self, your identity has to be in it. It can't be something, because if you're a Catholic and you can't say certain words, or you can't wear certain clothing, or you cannot put a red scarf on one day because that's what you feel like doing, or then you're not completely entering who you really are. There's still some identity crisis going on there. And so that's what I wanted to say.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned the word religion, and I know a lot of us have issues with that word, and sometimes we want to create a dichotomy between the word religion and spirituality. And I have come across that many times, and I said to myself, well, what is religion? What is the etymological root of the word religion? That so many people are just falling all over that word. And the word religion is two words, is re, legere, or religion. So re is we, to do something over, and legion from legere means to connect or to devote. The opposite of the word religare or religion is neglect, or neglect. So when you use the word religion, you're saying that you're devoting yourself, or you're devoting yourself back to something. Again, it's a devotion. It's a form of allegiance. You're reconnecting yourself with a practice. And so you hear a lot of people say, I go to this place religiously, or I do something religiously. This is saying that they are doing it consistently with devotion. And so, as opposed to neglecting their duties, not doing X, Y, and Z. So you could be a spiritual person, but there are activities and practice and rituals that you engage in religiously. Okay, so let's not get bugged up with, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Okay, well, are you devoting yourself to your spiritual rituals? So let's not fall too much into that trap. My position in all of this is to focus on the principles. The Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan always tells us that it is the principles that undergirds our practice that is important than the actual rituals, because some people are engaged in ritualistic activities and they take the ritual as the actual entity or the actual system, whether it's voodoo or Christianity or Islam. They got lost in ritualistic movements, but they don't sap or take away the principles. It is the principle that is important. And once you find the principles and you live by the principle, and that's how you extract benefit from that which you are practicing, whatever it is. So unfortunately, there are some religion, I'm just gonna make it very general, either Islam or Christianity. For Islam, people just go to the mosque and pray 5 times a day and do their daily prayers and say, oh, I am a Muslim and I'm done. This is what I have to do. And the Christian, they go to church and then they start calling on the name of Jesus, 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 and then or pray, or the Catholic Wule Chapelet or whatever. These are rituals. Or even the voodoo practitioners, they may using their song, or they doing their chanting. But if they don't delve into why they are doing what they are doing, what are the principles? Why? What is the purpose for what you are doing? And then start practicing it on your daily activities, then you're just a ritualistic person. I won't call it a religious person. You're just ritualistic because you are not making the connection with the principle. You're not devoting yourself to a set of principle. And so the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan told me one day in 2016, I was going to Haiti. And then he said to me, Brother Machandal, the Haitian people does not need another religion. He said what the Haitian people needs is freedom, justice, and equality through love and unity. So these are principles that are found in religion, but people who are lost into the religiosity of religion, then they don't get those principles. And so he reminds me, you don't go to Haiti to promote a religion. You go to Haiti to promote the principles of that religion. And once you do that, you won't run in contravention with the voodoo practitioners or the Christian, because you are focusing on the principles, not necessarily on the name of a religion.
Yes, and I would make one correction to what the minister said. The number one thing is discipline before the love and the unity can come. The discipline.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's right. Absolutely. That's right.
Really? Oh, I'm sorry, Franz. Are we done?
We are done. We are done. That was the last question. Thank you, Marlene. And thank you for that great answer, Minister Makhandal. And that's it. Thank you very much. And I'll leave the last word to Professor Bayyinah Bello.
Thank you. Well, to all who are present, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all that you've sent to us as energies, as good wishes. But most importantly, if you do not apply what you're learning, you are wasting our time. The important thing, Sasha's question is so much to the point. How come they've been teaching all this time and our people are not yet where we should be? Because we like to listen, say, yeah, it was good. My goodness, you went to Francis. Oh, Bayyinah spoke. Yeah, Makhandal, oh, he's good. And then you go home. What do? The important thing is, as you learn, as I often say, capture just one principle from what we have taught. We might have talked for 3 hours, but pick up one thing and then say, you're going to apply that one thing this week. Have a wonderful week. Be great. Be powerful. Be divine. That is your natural way of being. Be yourself. See you next week.
Bye.
Ibobo.
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 And everyone, that's Machandal, the Black Messiah. You could go on Amazon and order your copy, learn a little bit more about Machandal. And thank you again for joining us for another episode of Bayyinah and Friends, and we will see you next Thursday.
Thursday.
Peace.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. And thank you.
Very special thank you to Minister Makhandal. That was amazing.
Thank you, Minister Makhandal.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. See y'all next week.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.